Hello there, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to today's session. I can already see the familiar faces coming in, so welcome back, everybody. It's great to see you, and I'm so excited to see you guys. Keep on coming back. It's very energizing. For those of you who have been here before, you will know that this is my favorite call of the week. It's my favorite session, because basically I get to talk to people who are not, what is Waybook? But you guys know, you're deep, you're in. So we can really just spend time in terms of what's new and how we can get more out of our Waybook accounts. So many of you will know how today goes, but if this is your first product update webinar, welcome. It's so good to see you. And if we've not met before, it's also great to meet you. My name's Mike. I'm one of the co-founders here at Waybook. And in today's session, we will be heading through the fundamental updates that are in your account over the last few weeks and a bit of a clue as to what's coming up over the next few. Now, of course, we focus on the bits that are really kind of driving your use of Waybook forward. But of course, there are lots of other bits that is always swinging out into your Waybook account. So, without further ado, you know how to get in touch throughout today's session. We've got the chat, and we have the fantastic Sophia in the background there, who will be there to answer any thoughts or any questions that you've got. Please feel free to say hello in the chat. Tell us where you're calling from, what you're doing, or your business and where you're calling from. It's great to see us always spread across the world. I'm in London as usual, although I've been traveling around and about a few times recently. But without further ado, let's just jump directly into today's session. So what we're going to be covering today are the fundamental updates, which are, drum roll please, we have a progress matrix, which is already out in all of your accounts. We have reports updates specifically around how you can manage your onboarding and training pathways. We also have updates to Glossary. We've got moves and enhancements onto Document Manager. And also we've got an entirely new document review process, which is already in your account. So I'm going to explore how the best way we can use that, what that means, and also tell you what is coming next week, which is very similar or like a big an enhancement to that. So if you are messaging in the chat, thank you very much. Mahal, nice to meet you from Ecuador, and it's great to see you back. I believe this is not your first time, which is great. Okay, right. Well, let's just jump straight into it, ladies and gentlemen, and let's talk about the progress matrix. Now, those of you who are deep into L&D or into kind of like operations management and knowledge management, you probably won't be, this probably won't be an entirely new view to you, either progress matrix or a skills matrix. And the reason why we wanted to introduce this and bring this to you all is because ultimately we know how important it is once you've got your team into your Waybook to have a holistic view over your team and also their performance across the content. Now, of course, whilst you've got that with all of your content from like a particular subject or document perspective, we do also know that you can maybe want to identify those skills or knowledge gaps between particular types of knowledge or perhaps groups of your individuals as well. So that's why we've decided to kind of bring forward the progress matrix, which essentially is a matrix of all of your members against all of the content that they have access to, that you can then sort both by individual and also by your groups as well. So how you access that is actually available to all accounts. So if you have the ability to view reports, so that's either if you're a manager on the pro plan or an admin, or of course, if you're an admin on any plan, that's where you can see your reports. But instead of me just explaining it, let me just show you what it looks like. So I am going to jump into this demo Waybook that you're probably very familiar with by now. And this Waybook here, we will head straight over into the reports. And then in reports, you'll see progress matrix. And this is essentially where we can start to explore out that matrix. So it's a very simple, clean view. We will notice that on the kind of left-hand column, we'll see all of our users sorted alphabetically. But if you wanted to take a specific drill down into different departments, different groups, different people, you can of course do that from a members view. And we know that actually looking at reports by member, oh, sorry, by groups, has been a request for a while. So you can now do that in the progress matrix. So let's look at the customer support. And actually what you'll see here is if they don't have access, it will just be grayed out. If they do have access but they've not completed it, it's obviously got the percentage. And then you'll notice that the more they've completed, the darker green it goes. So, you know, this team isn't the most active, but because it's a demo account, I will let them off. But what it actually enables you to do is it almost gives you quite an interesting holistic view in terms of where the knowledge is spread across your team, who doesn't have access. We're only reporting here on if the completion is required. So say, for example, you have your marketing team that has access to your sales content, but they are reference only, so they're not required to complete it. It will just show as reference. And of course, you can then scroll around and look from a category, from a subject, and from a document perspective. So you can really drill down and see where people are. And this percentage is a specific document. So we can see here that this document, all of these contribute up to, you know, to the customer support subjects, which are all actually within the sales and marketing category. So I hope that kind of gives you a nice view. I'm really excited to see how you guys explore that, look and feel. And actually, it's already been great to get your thoughts and feedback on this. So if you have been early in, one of the first requests we had for this was, this is amazing, but I need to export it as a PDF to have it as a snapshot. You can do that. So sorry, as an Excel. So you can now do that, export as a CSV and an Excel there. So let's dive back into our second focus for today. And our second release, which has been out with you in October, is having tasks in reports. Now, the reason why we wanted to make sure that this was included was because we've noticed that since we've launched the learning pathways, people's onboarding using Waybook has become way more comprehensive. And in fact, we've heard quite a lot of you actually say that you used to still do some form of some parts of onboarding elsewhere and a couple of emails, whereas now we know everybody's bringing all of their onboarding specifically into Waybook, which we're really excited to see. But we want to just make sure that that reporting matches up with all of the content that you've put in. So what this actually is previously you would see what documents people have done. We then introduced the reports of the flow, but now you can actually look at the reports on a specific learning path. And that learning path will also include the tasks to work out as a percentage of how far somebody is through their onboarding. So you can always get a snapshot of where people are, either again from a individual, from a group's perspective on that learning pathway. And that is, of course, available to anyone who can see reports, once again, managers or admins. And actually, you can just head straight into your report builder and you'll be able to do that. So let me just show you briefly, and we'll do a 30-second recap on actually what I mean by tasks in paths. And if you don't know this, then this could be great. So if we head into paths, as you know, your knowledge within your Waybook is structured to be the structure of the knowledge within the business. So you don't need to augment this in a way for how people see it or the order. It's almost like how is the business structured and make the knowledge structure work for that. The pathways then help you augment and create that custom order through your existing content for your member groups. So if we go into the support, customer support onboarding, we can see here that we have pulled through 21 of these documents. And of course, we can add in additional documents. We can kind of, you know, put bits in there. We can reorder that. But you'll also know that you can then also add specific tasks. So a task is a new unit in your Waybooks where all of this is essentially just a document and it will take people through the documents. A task might be something specific that you might want them to do, a form to fill out, a kind of booking to make, a meeting to have, you know, an activity or challenge that doesn't live within your Waybook. You can create that as a task. And then, of course, you can obviously enable those deadlines. So those deadlines, you can decide who should see what after, you know, we want customer support to do all of this activity within their first day. Then we want them to do this by day 4. Then you can kind of set that up. And that obviously customizes that full onboarding and experience for everyone. But just once we're recapping on that, let's head back into the bit that has changed here. And that is actually now in the report builder. We can, of course, make sure that they're going through the content and everything else. But if we go onto that learning path, we can specifically select the customer support or onboarding learning path, look at everybody who's on that learning path and actually just see where they are as a percentage and know that that 100% is that entire onboarding rather than just the content within your Waybook. So that is, ladies and gentlemen, having tasks in reports for your paths. Well, there's lots of levels of words and everything there. So that takes us to the third part. But before I do, because I know I'm speaking at about 1,000,001 miles an hour, if you do have any thoughts, if you do have any questions, please do drop them either in the chat or in the Q&A function. I know some of you are saying hello back to you, Aaron in Minnesota. Great to see you back. So yeah, do keep it coming. Do let us know if there's anything that you want us to explore or expand on whilst we're going through this. But let's head on to number 3, and this is our glossary updates. Now, look, let's be honest, the reason why we actually have done updates to the glossary is because people seem to have loved the glossary way more than what we could have anticipated. We were really excited to put this in because we knew it was valuable, but actually we've seen really high levels of adoption on this. So what we've noticed from that is actually a lot of Waybooks are needing more language support, which also includes more symbol support as well. So like different characters, Unicode, things like that. And also, because this has now become a more fundamental use of your Waybook, we've seen the requirement for people to actually manage your glossary in bulk. So that is importing lots of words and terms and descriptions, and also exporting that to keep them updated and to keep them fresh. So what has changed in this is firstly that wider language and symbol support for your glossary. So you can now basically have anything as your automatic pop-out glossary terms, and we'll recap on what that is in just a moment. But you can now also export your glossary as a CSV and also import that back in as well. Now this is available in all accounts. Every Waybook does have a glossary. The Pro teams do have more terms available, and that is because actually it's quite a heavy load in order to be able to keep this serviced and keep this fast across all your Waybooks. So actually, let me just have a quick look at what a glossary is. So if I'm just in here as a reader, and perhaps I'll kind of try and find a glossary term. So here we've got meet the founders and we've got CEO. And if I hover over that, it will just give an additional description, definition, whatever that is. So you can actually add in hundreds of terms on here, and it will just automatically dotted line that and highlight that wherever it is. So it really adds an additional layer of context and understanding for your team. Now, if we go into that, we can go into where you manage your glossary, which is the settings. We go into glossary, and then you'll see these other two options. So you can now export that as a CSV. So if you did need to look at all of that, Erin, you said thanks for that. I wonder whether you were one of those that requested it. We heard it quite loudly, we heard it quite fast, and it's in, so we're good. So yeah, you can export that as a CSV, and just sometimes, of course, it's very easy for you to like add these codes in and type them. But if that content already lives elsewhere, or you want to just get somebody else to approve it that doesn't need the settings access, it just means that you can pull that down at any point and then re-upload that if you wanted to kind of keep that fresh. So that is your glossary update. So thank you very much for your feedback there. Let's head straight into the document manager enhancements. Now, the reason why we're continuing to focus on the document manager is because the more and more we see people getting into their Waybooks, the kind of administrators, which I guess are most of you on the call here, the editors, the publishers, the people who are knowledge owners, are needing an increasing amount of a holistic view of managing your knowledge within your Waybook at scale. So while of course you will actually look at an individual document and the settings on the document, and perhaps the owner of that document might actually make sure that the content's always up to date, we know that actually that holistic view is really important for you to see what reviews are there, who's verifying, who's owning, where the stage of documents is at. So what you can actually do is you can now enable a bulk management of a lot of your core activities within the bulk view. And some of the really specific new things that have gone out in the last kind of week or so is you can now set verification in bulk, and also a reset date for your verification as well. Now, there is a lot more you can do in that, and I'll just give a quick view now. But the key thing to just remember here is that everybody has access to this, or anyone with edit and above. It's available in your document manager, and we'll just have a quick look at that now. And then I cannot wait. I cannot wait to show you the next thing, and actually tease you with what's coming next week, because it's all very connected, and exciting. So again, if I go into this Waybook account and I will go over to the edit mode, and we head down to manage, and this is where we can close this if you want that clearer view. This is where we see the full holistic view of all of the documents within our Waybook. And of course, if you have edit but only to a few documents, you will only see the documents that you have edit access to. So if we look at these documents, what we're able to do is actually customize this view for you. So say, for example, what I'm looking for here is actually I'm looking to just see the ones that I perhaps verify. So let's say the ones that are verified, who the verifier is, and actually what the reset date on that is. So for those of you who aren't familiar, and perhaps let me just take one step back, if I may, to confirm. When you're in your settings, your owner is the person who is responsible for that content. So this is the person who is, should receive the notifications of any feedback, will probably make those edits, those amendments, those updates. If you want, and you can have multiple owners, if you need for certain content, you might have a document verifier. And this is typically the person who's accountable for that knowledge. And they will essentially then come in and say, okay, I verify that this knowledge is up to date. So we got that green tick, and the edits can happen, the publishing can happen, but I need to come back in and verify that. But what you can also do is you can then actually reset that verification date. So let's say, okay, we've done this, and actually that's going to be good for another year. So now I will just be like the document will be verified, but I will then get a notification in a year and say, hey, Mike, you need to re-verify this document. So that's essentially what I'm looking at here and how you manage that at bulk. But what you can do here is I can now, let's say I filter all of the documents that I need to verify. And these are the ones where verification status is enabled, and also I am the verifier of that. And then we can also actually have a look at what the status of it, is it needed, whatever else. And finally, we can then also look at, and if I amend that be on the reset date, we can see when that next verification is coming up for review. Now, so all of that is available within there, but where this becomes even more valuable is actually now we can manage that in bulk. So say, for example, let's just kill off those filters there. So remove those filters. And actually what I want to do is, let's say I want to actually make sure there's so many documents in this welcome subject, for example. So let's say, for example, I want to just I can either filter for that document, or I can just go into the change verification. And I actually just want to say, do you know what? I should verify that and that and that, and probably this one as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable the verification. I'm actually going to make myself the verifier of that person. And also I'm going to put a reset date on that, which you don't have to. And then I can just bulk do all of those verifications, and instantly you'll see those verifications are there. So this is how you can start to see the bulk actions working. You can do owners, you can archive, you can do drafts, publish, PDF, sharing, whatever you want. And our view for this is that actually you're able to then, yes, go in and out and make the final changes. But if you're making bigger changes, perhaps if your individuals are changing within the organization, then you can do that. Okay, Erin's got a great question there in terms of what's the difference between a verifier and a review, or a verifier versus a subject matter expert versus owner. So that's actually a really great question, Erin. Typically, what we see is most documents should really have an owner, because that owner, what they get is they are the person who is on display. So actually, as a reader, and if I go off edit mode here, if I pull out that info tab, I can see who the owner is, which basically means that if I need to actually go and call someone or speak to someone, I know who owns that document. With an owner, you can actually have multiple versions of, multiple owners. So that might actually be, these three people that are responsible for that content. And really, that might be the editing team. So that might be your subject matter expert, that might be your department head, that might be the person that edits that content. And you can see you can have all of these three in there. Now, where that becomes, and what they're able to do is if I get feedback on a document, so say I'm saying, do you know what? I don't understand this. And I don't need to type that. You know what I mean. I don't understand this. Essentially, those owners will then get a notification and it will say, hey, there's notification on this document. So they'll come back into edit mode and they'll be able to see all of the feedback. They'll be collaborating on it. They'll be able to do whatever within that. So that's the owner status. The verify is just an additional status. If you almost need that legal track compliance, that is, they will come in and say, yes, this is, I verify that this is up to date. You can have a verifier without an owner, and you can have an owner without a verifier. It's almost for a totally different means. Now, you also asked what's the difference between a verifier and a review, which is a very good question. And I'm going to answer that in just one moment because the final release, which I'm really excited to share with you, is actually a brand new document review process. Now, the document review process is essentially a really an enhanced way because ultimately we noticed that there's so much collaboration on the Waybook documents. And actually sometimes when you're pinging things between chats and you know, actually, Aaron, can you look at this again? And you know, Eric, can you check this? Gordon, can you look at that? Ultimately, sometimes things can get a little bit lost within a chat, which ultimately means if you want this to be confirmed that someone has reviewed it and signed it off and is happy, then we almost need a system to be able to make sure that we're happy with that. So that is one way of doing it, and that actually enables that compliance and handoff, particularly for those important documents. So what you're now able to do within Waybook is that you can have an entirely renewed document process. Now, we did have a review cycle before, but this is now just a lot more efficient. And ultimately, that enables you to create review processes, comment on them, complete them, and all of that is then recorded specifically against the version of that document. So if you look back in years to come, you can say, oh, well, we did that because actually we thought of this and this person signed it off and they were happy and these were the comments and that's where we're in the position we are. Okay, cool. So I got a little bit distracted by Haley there saying these updates are amazing and everything our team has requested. You're the one then, Haley. You're the one keeping us on our toes, which we always appreciate very much. Okay, so let's just look at this document review cycle. This is available on all accounts. It is you will see it if you have unpublished changes on a document. So I am going to just head back into this account for one last time. And so let's say we're making a change to this, right? So I am collaborating with Benji, one of the owners on this account. We've got this feedback. Okay, they don't understand it. How can we explore, whatever that may be? So we're collaborating on this document. Perhaps we want to go into into this and we just want to expand it out. So let's say I'm just expanding out, you know, this content. I'm a little bit lazy. Or let's call me efficient. So I'm just going to expand that out there using AI. And we say we're pretty happy with this, but we've just changed the vision of the company. So I'm not the one that's going to be able to sign that off. So instead of publishing, you then go down to request a review. And now there's lots of changes from here. So you'll notice from this before, you would just see everyone with access. Now what you can do is you'll see people prioritized by how much power they have over that document. We'll see who is the owners of the document, who can publish that, or actually who can just edit it. Now, I'm able then to add anybody into this review. So if it's just someone else, another editor, I can say, yeah, Dan, I want Dan and Elle to look at this. Or perhaps I can actually say, you know, Hermione is the owner ultimately that can publish. So I add that person in. So one or multiple people within it. And it will automatically say, please, can you review and provide feedback on this document? And then I might be able to say, also, can you publish after? Or, you know, let me know, whatever you want. So I can literally put that within there. Now, what I do is I can request that review, and you'll see that that document will now go into a review state. Now, what that review state means is that anybody else who's editing or coming across that document will know that it's in that review state, and it will be able to basically say that I have requested a review for Elle and Hermione on this date. Now, I can then actually open that review, and because I started that review, I can just cancel it. And or perhaps I can actually then just publish the changes anyway, because I don't want to wait for it, but the review will stay open, or I start a new review. Now, the other thing, the other view here, this is an example of a document where somebody else has asked somebody else to review it. And so you see it's in this orange format. And that basically says that Dan has asked Sophia to do this review. Now, because that's an active process and in review, I'm actually just going to leave that there because I'm not an owner of it. I just had some contribution to it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it, and actually I'm just going to add some context. I know you've got this in hand, but have you thought about XYZ, or can we connect it with this document, whatever that may be? And actually, I can then come in and I can actually complete that review. So even if I'm not the one that has been asked, if I'm doing that, I can complete that review and either publish or, of course, request another review. Now, the final view, just to have a quick look at, is if I go into, let me have a look at the brand guidelines. You'll see here that Sophia has asked me to review this document. So it will be in this view format, blue format, because it requires my access and my completion. So Sophia has requested you to review it. I can now review it, see all of the comments, provide the comments and feedback, and complete that review. If there is an activity that is pending you will get a notification. It will show up in your left-hand nav with this blue icon. And of course, if I go into the document manager view, I can just quick go to everything that I need to let's say review, not approve, and that will take me to that document, which will essentially now enable me to open that, mark that as reviewed. Now, the final thing just to show you there is once I kind of complete and review, I can now either push that to somebody else and we do multiple reviews before we get to a publish, or if we publish those changes, that will go out. And crucially, if we look at the activity tabs, all of that content, that communication, that review will now be in there. So Sophia asked Mike, this was the comment, these are my comments, this is a publish, and you'll just see that in between your published versions. So we've gone from version 6 to version 7. These are the changes, these are the feedback, these are the collaboration, here's who signed it off, here's the content, and it's all there. So I've probably overspoke that, but but I hope that gives you a really clear view into this. Now, we know that the vast majority of documents might not need a full review cycle. If you're owning that knowledge, or actually if you just need somebody else to tick that off, then that is a quick way of doing that as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, just saying, Aaron, you've said, great, Jane, wanted to see the context for previous versions being published, who, why, exactly, yeah. So all of that context is within your tab now. And of course, you can look at, say, I've come in for this review, I can still see the changes that haven't been published by this. And actually, if I want to look at a kind of diff view of that, I can actually open that and say, okay, well, this changed. And it will red and green what was removed, green what was added in on that change, and then we put that in. And then once we've made that publish, so from 6 to 7, for example, we can then look at the full version history. And that full version history will enable us to then, this is a pro feature, but it will enable us to look at the whole holistic document and actually compare between any of your previous versions, any version against any other version, what's changed between the two. And then that kind of keeps all of that clear and consistent and moving forward. Amazing. Thank you so much for staying with me on that one. So that's your document review process. The last thing to just share with you is what's coming next. What is coming next, and this sounds similar, but I promise you it's very different, is an optimized approval workflow. So if you're looking at that and you say, Mike, this is great, but I don't just want to keep on sending approvals, like reviews between people. I actually need to say this document has to start with me, then it has to go to Elle, then it has to go to Haley, then Greer has to sign it off, and Gordon has to publish it, and that's always the case. Watch this space. I'll see you here next month, because that is basically in your accounts. It's on the edge of being in your accounts. And then the other thing that we're very excited to introduce as well next month is the document creation priority. So if you've got lots of documents and your kind of to-do list, and that sometimes becomes overwhelming, you can now easily prioritize which documents are going to have the biggest efficiency and biggest lift for your team. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, your attention, your energy, your contribution. It really is an absolute pleasure to be able to do this with all of you so regularly. If you've got any other thoughts, any other questions, any other feedback or requests, you know we're here, you know we're all ears, and we cannot wait to keep on driving Waybook forward to help you get your business on the same page so all of us together can enjoy some smooth scaling. So, until next time, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you then. Have a great one.